everyone, it's Eva. So I know cooking takes up a lot of time, especially if you're making brand new meals every single meal of the day, and sometimes people don't have that much time. Sometimes you're just lazy on some days because maybe you're having a bad day. So I have 3 meals that I like to make ahead of time just so that basically I can be fed for quite a bit of time, or when I just really don't feel like making food at all. Now to clarify, I have a feeling that a lot of people are getting you in trouble for this, but these meals aren't necessarily like you eat 3 big meals a day type of meals. Obviously you would want to eat other things with it, and these are more like mini meals, I guess, or better versions of microwave meals, because typically microwave meals are fairly small and they're typically just meant for if you literally have nothing else to eat type of thing and no time whatsoever. So if you're like me and you snack a lot or you eat tons of meals but they're just like small sized, these are definitely perfect for you. I just had to get that out of the way because I just feel like there's going to be a lot of people being like, that meal's not big enough, you need to eat this type of nutrient with this, you need more veggies, you need more of that. Well, it's a mini meal, okay? Alright, so first things first is chicken pot pie, and I love chicken pot pie. I haven't tasted one that's been pre-made from the grocery store that's, you know, frozen and stuff that tastes particularly amazing that I really like. So I ended up just making my own and ended up, you know, feeding Daniel and I for like close to a week. First things first, with every single chicken dish that I make, I always like to make sure that the chicken is brine just so that it ends up more juicy and moist in the end. So I have 2 chicken breasts that I've been soaking overnight in a mixture of salt and water. I'm just going to be putting it into a slow cooker with olive oil and some adobo seasoning. You can also season it with whatever you want. I just kept the seasoning kind of light. And then I'm just cooking it in the slow cooker for 2 to 3 hours. If you want a bigger pie, obviously you might need to cook it a little longer in the slow cooker. You can even cook it on the stove if you want. I just personally prefer to cook chicken in a slow cooker for this recipe because you can shred it really nice and it mixes well with everything else, and it's just overall a better texture in my opinion. But again, if you want, you can fry it on a pan, chop it up, whatever you prefer. Next up, in a pot of boiling water, you're going to add some salt and 1 diced potato that's been peeled and everything. I use the small one just because I'm only making 1 pie, but if you do use a big potato, just expect it to be super filled. To that, I also added 1 cup of mixed veggies that were frozen. I'm using these veggies just because those are the ones that were on sale at Walmart, but if you guys have other veggies that you prefer to put in the pie, feel free to toss in whatever you want. But you're pretty much going to want to boil it until the potatoes are cooked, and it really shouldn't take that long, especially if the potatoes are cubed really tiny. But after that, just strain it. Next up, in a big pan. The first time I ever made this, I made it in a small pan and it was quite overflowing, so you're gonna want to work with a big pan. But put it on low heat and melt half a cup of unsalted butter. Then add in 1 chopped onion and then cook until the onions are tender. The choice of onions is up to you. It will change the flavor a little bit because some onions are more acidic than others, but it's not a huge deal. I just use white onions just because those are the cheapest ones at Walmart. For the seasoning, you're going to add 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of thyme, and half a teaspoon of ground pepper. If you're really lazy, you probably don't have to perfectly measure all of these ingredients. To be honest, I don't really measure the spices. I kind of just eyeball it. There's a lot of flexibility here. After everything is combined, you're going to take half a cup of all-purpose flour and slowly add it in to thicken the mixture. If you do prefer a more watery type of consistency for the filling, you can obviously just take out some of the flour, just don't put all of it in. After that, you're going to slowly add in a mixture of 1.5 cups of chicken broth and 3/4 a cup of milk. I did also add in some of the juices from the slow cooker just because you might as well more chicken flavor. I mixed that in with the chicken broth measurement. This is honestly probably the most tedious part, but you're just gonna slowly mix it in just so that it doesn't get chunky and everything kind of combines well together. After you get the consistency that you want, you're going to add in your veggies and the shredded chicken. Okay, now to put everything together, you're going to need 2 pie crusts. You can either make this from scratch or just buy it from the store. I tend to make mine from scratch because it ends up being cheaper that way. But line a 9-inch circular pie pan with the first one, add in all of your filling. It tends to be a bit of a mountain whenever I do it, just because I like to have a lot of filling. Put the top crust on top and then just seal the edges in any way that you like. I use a fork because it's the quickest way and easiest way. And then just poke some holes in the center just so that the insides have some space to breathe, or the steam has some places to go. When When you're satisfied, just put it into the oven at 425 degrees Fahrenheit for 35 to 40 minutes. And obviously, if you do want to eat it, just wait a few minutes after it comes out of the oven, unless you want like a super burnt tongue or upper mouth. It's quite the mess, so just wait a few minutes before you eat. But other than that, that's it. You can leave it in the fridge for a few days and eat it as you go. Next up, we have some hot dog buns, and these things, I grew up eating them. My parents used to always go to the bakery and buy them, and I love them. They were my favorite things from the Asian bakery, besides the coconut sprinkled cream bun. I don't really know what it's called, but those two were my top favorites that I always got. Okay, so first things first, you're gonna take half a cup of warm water. It's warm as long as you put your finger in and it doesn't hurt, obviously, so don't kill the yeast. And then just add in 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast and wait until it's a little foamy, and that's when you know it's activated and everything. In a separate bowl, you're going to add half a cup of warm milk and 1/3 of a cup of melted butter. You're also going to add 1/3 of a cup of sugar, 1 egg, and the water and yeast mixture. Mix everything as well as you can. Now this is very dependent on the flour that you're using, but you're going to start off with 2 cups of flour that you're going to mix into that wet mixture. I know that some flour can be a lot more porous than others and rise a lot more than others, depending on the brand and how much of what they mixed into it. So you're gonna start off with 2 cups, and from there you're going to add more if necessary. You know it's the right consistency when it has like a dough-like texture, but it's still sticky. So you don't want it to be more firm as if you're making French bread, because you want this dough to be very, very fluffy. But knead it until it becomes a smooth ball, and if you poke it in, it bounces back. And also that it's not too sticky, but it's still a little sticky. Like you can tell that it's moist. And with all types of bread dough, you're gonna want to put either a wet towel on top and wait, or saran wrap, whichever you prefer. You're going to want to wait 45 minutes or until it's doubled in size, but when it's done, you're just going to want to punch out all that air and split it into however many pieces you want. This part is dependent on how much bread you want wrapped around each hot dog. So it's really up to you and your preferences. Just know that it's going to rise quite a bit and expand quite a bit, so keep that in mind. I like to roll the pieces of dough into long strips and then just wrap it around each hot dog. These hot dogs I've cooked ahead of time. You can use sausages instead if you want, or whatever type of filling you want really, and just wrap it around. After you're done with all of them, you're going to want to cover it yet again, because with bread it's a lot of waiting. So it's something nice to do between whatever you're doing, because you just have to prep it and everything and then just wait. But you're going to want to wait for the same thing for it to double, or 45 minutes, with either a wet towel on top or a saran wrap. When it's expanded enough, at this point you have a choice of either brushing egg wash on top for a nice little crispy and golden crust, or you can just put it in as is without the egg wash. It's totally optional. It's more of like a textural and visual type of thing. But you're going to want to put it in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 10 to 15 minutes, or until the top is a little golden brown. And besides that, you're done. You have a super, super fluffy bread around and encasing a sausage of your choice. Let me know if you guys grew up eating these hot dog buns as well. And finally, we have some pizza pockets. So as usual, we are going to need some dough for this. So in 1 cup of warm water, you're going to add 2 teaspoons of yeast, and as usual you're going to want to wait for it to foam up. But in addition to that, you're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt and 2 teaspoons of sugar, just for a little bit more flavor. Now again, all flour is different, so I'm just slowly adding flour and mixing it with my hands until I get the consistency that I want. The only difference here is that instead of leaving it super sticky, you're going to want it to be a lot less sticky in general. We're not going for something super fluffy in this case. We're going for something that's going to have a nice crust and stay kind of thin and not like rise a ton. At this point, if you want to put some herbs in, you can feel free to do that as well. But as usual, you're going to put it into an oiled bowl with either a wet cloth on top and saran wrap, and wait again until it doubles. Okay, so now we're gonna work on our fillings. You can obviously make that pizza tomato sauce from scratch if you want, but I have marinara sauce that I need to get rid of anyway, so I'm just going to use some pasta sauce. To that though, to add some more taste to it, I'm going to add a lot of oregano, pepper, and some garlic salt. Alright, so when the dough is done, you're going to punch out all the air as usual. There are a few different ways they can wrap this depending on what you prefer. I did try to make it into rectangles and wrap it like that because that's what I saw online just specifically for this video, because I was like, that looks cool. That didn't really work out for me. Honestly, the easiest way in my opinion is to get a ball of dough, stretch it out, and put it into a tiny little bowl. I just used the rice bowl, and put your fillings in and close it up, kind of like making a bun. It's honestly the quickest and easiest way. But pretty much you're going to add as much marinara sauce as you want, some cheese, and whatever fillings you prefer. I used onions, peppers, olives, and mushrooms. If you want, you can add some pepperoni, pesto, really whatever you want. That's what I really like about making my own, is that when I used to buy them, or whenever my parents used to buy them actually, I just felt like there wasn't enough filling in it and it just wasn't very flavorful. The cheese was never melted. Maybe I just never microwaved it properly, or maybe there just wasn't enough cheese. I don't know, but I just like having my own and putting in whatever I want. It's just my problem is I tend to overstuff it, so be careful with that. However, when you're done making all of your pizza pockets, this time we are not going to wait for it to rise. We're just going to put it directly into the oven, into a 400 degrees Fahrenheit oven until it's golden. So it's gonna be about 15 minutes. And that's pretty much it. You can freeze it and eat it later if you want, just like the store-bought ones, except these ones taste a lot better and are custom made to whatever you prefer. And then if you ever want to take it out, if you have a toaster oven, you can chuck it in there, or you can just put it in the microwave. Hopefully you guys like these recipes and it helped you guys out if you really don't like cooking often at all, or if you like having a lot of snacks or upgraded microwave meals.